Hello everyone, my name is Mario Tiozzo and I'm the Data Analysis and Visualization Librarian here at UNB Libraries. Today we're going to take a look at how to analyze the data in this spreadsheet and visualize it with a line chart. Here we have the cumulative sales of a fictional company taken every hour. Our sales data is taken over a 14-day period. This is a somewhat similar example to your assignment in that the data is continuous, even though there are no decimals. So let's get started with getting some statistical information from our data, which will allow us to better analyze and visualize it. First, we want to calculate the hourly sales average. We do this by using the average function of Excel. And as a reminder, the average function of Excel provides the mean. We first go to an empty cell. I'll pick cell B17 and enter the equal sign to let Excel know that we're about to start a formula. Then we enter the name of the formula, in this case, average. You can see that it autofills. We'll select the first one. I can press tab to autocomplete, and it provides the opening parenthesis. This parenthesis tells Excel that you are ready to ingest the data. You can see that it tells you what it's looking for, number 1, number 2, etc., etc. We can click and drag the data that we're interested in this case, all the data in a 9 o'clock time slot, and you can see that it is highlighted and that the formula has been updated from cell B2 to B15. We can then close the parentheses to tell Excel that we're done with this, and then press enter to get our result. $41 is the average sales at the 9 o'clock time slot over these 14 days. If we double click on it, we can see which range has been highlighted. Now we could do this for every individual time slot, but that would be quite time consuming. Instead, we can go back to the cell that we calculated. Notice that there's a dark square at the bottom right corner of the cell. If I approach it, my white cross cursor will turn into a plus sign. When that happens, I can click and drag this entire series here, and Excel will automatically update all the formulas for all of these columns. We can test to see if this is actually the case simply by double-clicking anywhere on any of these formulas. And you can see that the 13 o'clock formula is getting picked up at the right spot. Let's click on the last one. You can see that the 17 o'clock is also getting picked up accurately. Great. How about we put a little tag here so that we know exactly what we're dealing with here. This is the mean. Next, we want to calculate the standard error. As you know, the standard error is the standard deviation divided by the square root of the total number of observations. So let's first calculate the standard deviation. For those who don't know, the standard deviation is basically the dispersion of the data or spread of the data from the mean. We do this by using the standard deviation function of Excel. It's basically the same thing as the average. We press equal to let Excel know that we're interested in starting a formula. Then we type in the name of the formula, it's STD, and you can see here there's a whole bunch of options. We're interested in this case in the first two, the standard deviation of the population, .p, or the standard deviation of the sample. As this is a sample, we'll go down. We'll pick STDEV.S. We can press tab to autocomplete. And just like the average example, we highlight the range that we're interested in this case, the 9 o'clock time slot. Close the parentheses, and we press enter. Again, we can go back on that cell, go to the corner. Once we get the plus sign, we can click and drag all the way across. Put in the tag here, standard deviation. Great. Now let's try to find the number of observations. Go back to our empty cell, in this case B19, and we press an equal, and in this case the name of the function is count. Select the first one, open the parentheses, and highlight the data that we're interested in, close the parentheses, and press enter. 14, that makes a lot of sense since there's 14 days worth of data. If we left click and drag, we would expect all of these to be 14, as all these columns have 14 days worth of data. Here we can put a tag, number of observations. Great. With this information, we can now calculate the standard error at each hour mark. So remember, standard error is the standard deviation divided by the square root of the number of observations. So again, we start with an equal sign to let Excel know what we want to do. We click on the standard deviation cell at the 9 o'clock mark because we're interested in this case in the 9 o'clock standard error. Click on this, divided by the square root of the number of observations. How do we do this? There's actually a formula for that. SQRT is a square root. I press tab to autocomplete, and then we click on the number of observations at the 9 o'clock mark, and we close the parentheses. So this has the standard deviation at the 9 o'clock mark divided by the square root of the number of observations at the 9 o'clock mark, which should give us the standard error at the 9 o'clock mark. Press enter, and that's the standard error. Again, go back to it, left click, drag, and we get all our values for all the time slots. Tag here, STE, great. Okay, we have all the statistical information we need to construct our chart. We have the mean and the standard error, which is calculated by using the standard deviation and the number of observations. Now let's build our chart, and this will be a line chart, which lends itself well for continuous data. First, we select our independent variable, which is time. We then select our dependent variable, which is the cumulative average sales. But you notice once I do that, we lose the time series. In order to capture both, we need to first highlight the independent variable, press the Control button, and then highlight the average sales figures. Both of these will be captured. Once we have our data highlighted, we click on the Insert tab. Mine happens to be already at that area, but usually you start off at the Home tab. You would then click on the Insert tab to reveal the Insert ribbon. We can then click on the line chart icon in the Insert ribbon. We get a bunch of options, but we will pick the one with the markers so that our data points are visible. Congratulations, we have our first chart. Just a point of clarification, however, sometimes your chart won't respond the same way if it encounters a different data source. In this case, Excel figured out that the date was the independent variable. Let's go through an example where that's not the case and how to fix it. I'm going to create another data series called temperature, and let's have the intervals be of increments of 2. Down here, call it temp for short. Let's start off at 10, and then let's make it grow by 2 each time. So equals this cell plus 2, and then I can just click this, left click, drag, and we'll have balances of 2 all the way to 26. Okay, we're ready to build our second chart. Let's select our independent variable, in this case temperature, press Control, select our average sales, go to the Insert tab, click on Line Chart. Let's select the fourth option again. Okay, this is a little different, and it doesn't seem quite right. Excel thinks that both of these series should be line charts, but you want temperature to be your independent variable. So let's fix this. First, let's delete the temperature line chart, because that's not accurate. Just click anywhere on it. You can see it's all highlighted, and you just press delete. This part is a little tricky, but I will walk you through it step by step. Let's go anywhere on the chart and right-click. Now click on the Select Data option. This is basically the inner workings of the chart. You can see Series 1 on the left where our dependent variable is located. You can add, edit, or remove series in this panel. We're happy with this section of the chart, so we're going to leave it alone. On the right-hand side, we have the section for the independent variable. You can see that it's marked 1, 2, 3, etc., etc. And this is also being reflected in the chart. This is the default setting because Excel doesn't know what to use for this series. So let's show it what we need. Click on the Edit button, highlight the range that you're interested in this case temperature, press OK. You can see that the data is now in the right-hand box, and it has also been incorporated in the chart. Just a quick aside, the Select Data option may look different if you're using a Mac or Excel Online, but all these elements should be there. Okay, now that we're done with this example, let's cancel, and let's delete this and delete this temperature. Okay, if we look at our original chart, let's try to clean it up a little bit and make it more meaningful. First, let's add elements that we want to include. If you left-click anywhere on the chart, you'll notice a plus sign next to it. When you click it, you'll be able to add and delete chart elements. Some versions of Excel, including those running on a Mac, won't see this plus sign. No problem. You can access the same commands by, again, clicking on the chart, which will create the Chart Design tab. Click on that. Now click on the very first button of the ribbon called Add Chart Element. From there, you'll be able to have the exact same functionalities as clicking on the plus sign. The first element that we want to add are the standard error lines. So while we're here, let's do it right from the tab. And we'll select error bars. Now you would think that pressing standard error will create what you're looking for, but you notice that it looks like error bars, but they all seem to be the same length, which is a little bit suspicious because we can notice that our data the standard error ranges from $7 to $19. Go back here, back to error bars, and instead of selecting standard error, let's go to more error bar options. When you do that, this opens up a side panel with a whole bunch of options. We have direction of the error bars, so we can have positive and negative error bars or both. In this case, we're happy with both. We can have cap or no cap. And right now it's selecting standard error, but we're going to go to custom here. Press the custom button and then specify value. And now we have fields for both the positive values and the negative values. We're going to enter our standard error data in there, but first we need to delete what's in that field. Press the delete button. Then we highlight our standard error data. We do the exact same thing for negative error values. So we'll highlight and delete this information. And again, we'll use the exact same data and press OK. And now our error bars seem to be more congruous with the data that we've calculated. We'll also want to add a second element, axis titles. In this case, I'll use the option of clicking on the chart and pressing the plus sign. You'll notice here that we have axis title here, and we have the option of doing the horizontal or the vertical. In this case, we want both, so we can just click on this one. It'll provide both. And then we'll have to manually enter it, which is a little tricky because especially this one, cumulative sales. And then we have the units, Canadian dollars. We'll do the same thing for the axis title on the bottom here, independent variable, time, and the units, hours. Great, that's looking pretty good. Now let's clean this up a little bit and remove any elements that may distract our audience. First, let's remove the grid lines. You can go on any grid line and click on it, left click. You can see that they're all highlighted. You can press the delete button, and that cleans it up quite a bit. Next, you'll notice that there's a chart border around this chart. We'll want to eliminate that as well. We click on the chart, and on the side panel, we can see borders are automatically filled with a gray highlight. We're just going to say we don't want any borders, so no line. And now our borders have been removed. Finally, we'll remove the title. And some of you would say that the title is important because it provides a lot of information, and you'd be right, but we're going to solve this problem by using a figure caption. A figure caption explains the who, what, why, and how of your chart. So I've created something here. Figure 1, mean plus or minus standard error, cumulative sales in Canadian dollars measured at hourly intervals. Data were collected daily over 14 consecutive days. I think that does a trick, but you can see that it's a long line and we want to align it with our chart. In order to do so, I will create a space here and merge and center to consolidate a bunch of cells into one big overarching cell. Now, obviously this isn't very legible, so we'll also wrap the text in order to view it better, and we'll left align it so that it looks even better. Finally, we will highlight figure 1 and bold it by pressing the B symbol here. Great. Let's now align our chart. Now let's create a white background by highlighting cells close to this area and creating a white background by filling in white. Terrific, that's starting to look good. Now let's use our snipping tool. You can use any snipping tool you want. I'm using the one Microsoft Office. Just highlight the area that you're interested in. And now you have a nice clean chart and caption you can paste in a Word document or your PowerPoint presentation. I hope that this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.